Snow on the trees is dripping. Sun's finally out. We'll go somewhere where it's not dripping. Once I get these few branches that I cut several days ago. Everywhere you look. Big stump here I gotta cut down flush. Probably not today. I'll come in, I'll use the chainsaw for couple hours and cut up a bunch of clearing the trail and end up with all this kind of stuff. Branches, pieces of log, tree trunk. Blackberries. This log's got this tree has to go. Cut that up. Trail comes through here, heading down that way. Comes from that way. This is the type of tree that's been laying in the ground for probably a couple of years. Sometimes they're half rotted in the ground. If they're large enough diameter, I gotta pull them like this right here. It's gotta be cut up. The green markers are where the trail, tentative trail that I'm working on. I cut all this 2 days ago. Got vines, blackberries, thorns, alders. It's about 34 degrees out. The sun feels nice when I'm in the sun. Quite a difference between the sun and the shade. A lot of blackberries that still have to be cut. Here we are in the Northeast Kingdom of Vermont, East St. Johnsbury, Vermont. The guest house, 459. Some of these logs on the ground are so rotted you go to pick them up and they just break, crumble into pieces like that. Probably been laying there for 10 years. When I cut these logs that are on the ground partially in the dirt like that, I got to be really careful not to go so deep that I hit the ground, because it dulls the chain. As soon as you touch the ground, forget it. So I go right above the ground, then I use my peavey to roll the log over. If it's dirty, I won't cut it. I might let it get rained on a couple times. Or if I have a chain it's pretty dull already, I'll come back and cut it. It's usually an easy cut because the side that's on the ground is usually partially rotted, which cuts a lot easier. But the dirt still dulls the chain. So far I've had over 120 chain sharpenings. Right now I'm rotating 23 chains. I had 25, but I broke 2 the other day. I'd rather be doing this than sharpening chains, that's for sure. Better cardio. A lot more efficient too. There's a tree that blew down. Here's the root plate. It's about 5 feet in diameter. There's the tree right on the other side. You can see it going up that way. Branches off. A lot of blowdowns over the past several years. Another huge root plate right there. This tree's resting on that root plate. Probably both went down at the same time. That one obviously went first, then this on top of it. It's a lot wetter out than I thought it would be. With the snow cover, my gloves are getting soaked. These aren't insulated, just leather. So my hands are a little bit cold, but I can deal with it. The traffic through here is Route 2. Heads east and west, going through East St. Johnsbury, Vermont. Probably about a quarter mile away from here. When we moved here 38 years ago in 1986, you hardly heard any traffic at all. Unbelievable how much more traffic there is. Back then we might have had 10 or 12 vehicles go up our street in a day. Now there's between 40 to 60. I had to complain and have the speed limit lowered around 2008 or 2007. It was 35 on our street. It was just too much traffic, narrow street. I told them to make it 20 miles an hour. They came out with radar and set up tripods with radar on it and did a survey of the traffic. For a year they did it. Then they finally lowered the speed limit to 25. Coming down through here where the chainsaw is, and then that log, you turn 180 degrees. We're coming down through here. Those pieces have to go. This. So I got to cut this tree trunk here. This is what I do. Sometimes where I put the wood, sometimes I have to move it a couple times just to keep the line straight. But when I'm done, everything's a nice straight line. You can see the vehicles on Route 2 through the trees there. You can see them going by. I have to slow down when I'm getting near dirt. That's why I have to keep jazzing the throttle. Lower speed. If I went too crazy and too fast into the ground, I'd be changing the chain. all this blackberries. Gotta go and practice. Sometimes I just do the majority of it. All the small stuff has to still be cleaned up. This has to be cut up. But I'll come down and start moving some of this bigger stuff. Start warming myself up. I'm getting a little cold. Let's start burning some energy. All these logs, all these pieces of log, tree trunk, all have to be one side or the other. I'm heading towards that light green marker. This log will require the PV to move. No, maybe not. That's how it's rotted on the bottom, where it was laying on the ground. Here it's off the ground. It's easy peasy cutting there. Everything's clean. No dirt. The moss on top won't dull the blade. The chain, I should say. I'm a carpenter, so I call it the blade sometimes. Just cut all these the other day. Next time I bring the insulated gloves. Sometimes the logs are so rotted you can't even pick them up. They just crumble in your hand. I'm a little bit winded because I'm talking. I can work faster when I'm not talking. But I try to always breathe through my nose. I don't get winded to the point where I'm opening my mouth at all, really. You do this 4 to 6 hours a day in cardio. After a while, you get pretty strong. If I work hard enough, I'll be standing here in a t-shirt. Comfortable. 34 degrees. Trail's heading down that way. It's going to make a loop and it's going to head back here, head back up. Big brook right there. I'd have to build about a 12 to a 16-foot long bridge if I wanted to cross that brook. That I'm not going to do. Prefer just to stay in the woods if I have to. If I have to go in a circle, that's fine. Circle's got to be big enough because my sled is a 2-up. Skidoo Grand Touring 2012 600 E-Tech with mountain clutching. mountain gears and performance clutching for mountains, for low grunt. The way it was set up from the factory, it was almost like it had highway gears in it. It's all mountainous around here. Up and down hills, starting up on steep hills to cross a road, for example. With 2 people on it, the sled weighs 1,250 pounds loaded with my wife and I. And all the gear. I could smell the belt burning on steep startups like that, and I said, this is crazy. I don't need to be riding my sled 100 miles an hour. If I lived on a lake, a frozen lake, that'd be one thing, but I don't. Dynamo Joe at ibackshift.com up in Ontario, Glacier Bay, Ontario, I think it's called. He's way up north. He's the guy that figured out my clutch arrangement. Both clutches, the tray 3 and the secondary. Completely rebuilt them with parts that he figured out. The original ramps, but everything else is different. Here's a heavy one. With a little bit of persuasion. Get it out of the way. You see we're clearing. There's the chainsaw up there. There's the milk crate with the chainsaw supplies past that stump. We're working on this, getting it clear. Gonna come down, stay away from the brook, come around this way. Big cherry tree here I have to cut. I believe it's a cherry. Pretty precarious. Come down here, this will all be cleared. Get rid of all this old wood pile here. Come around here. Clear enough here I can make a nice easy turn. Flat. A ravine here. Don't want to go through that. Don't want to go through that. Come around. On this side of the root plates. Cut these trees that are all fallen and work my way back to that marker, the green marker you can see. It's about 35 yards from here. Should keep me busy for a little while. When we bought this 38 years ago, these trees that are now, this one's about 30 inches or more in diameter here, all these were only half that size. There were no trees this big in the woods. It's amazing. While I'm coming through here, I might as well be. This isn't the trail's down there. I'm going to get my friend brother Jim to help me with this. This big one. If not for anything else, for moral support. He'll have a good idea. He always does. There's the trail. I bucked up all this the other day. Everywhere you look, there's wood. I figure since the 1st of July, I've cut and moved so much wood. I moved wood so many times. Piles, moved piles. I had 10 piles at one point where I cleared for the lawn. Halfway through, I said I've probably moved 40 to 60 tons of wood. And now I would say I've moved about 100 tons of wood in 5 months. That includes boulders, moving big boulders. I used my PV on some of them. I could pull them out of the ground. They were like 350-pound round boulders. As long as there was a little imperfection or a little chip in it, I could latch onto it with a PV hook and pretty much roll it right out of the ground. Amazing. Had to resharpen the PV hook. But the PV was $129, and just moving the boulders alone, not to mention the big logs that I've moved with it that helped me a lot, just moving the boulders that I moved paid for itself. Made in Maine. Has an ash handle, wooden ash handle. I've reefed on that so hard. Doesn't even, no noticeable bend whatsoever. There's a big tree. Pivot this around. Stand it up. Drop it on the pile. Push it out of the way. What do they say? Wash, rinse, and repeat? Or is it just rinse and repeat? I would say ad nauseum, but I love the work too much to say that. And just being out in the woods with the fresh air, getting your heart going, it's an adrenaline rush. I think it actually grounds me. Rotted tree limbs in the ground. The more you clear, the more you see that there is to cut. Like this big branch here. in any wood that you uncover on the ground. I've been wanting to get out sooner with the camera. I thought about it a number of times. The only reason I didn't is because it takes up more time. I have to be cautious of the camera that I don't, break it or damage it or get sap on it, or I have a waterproof case for it, but I prefer not to use it because the sound quality is better without the case. And to concentrate on cutting trees and moving brush and doing everything I have to do, to be a photographer at the same time is kind of, gotta really be in the mood to be multitasking. I'm not cutting as much as I normally would be because I don't want all this wet sawdust flicking all over the camera. At the guest house, 459. When I was cutting all this up here, this area right here, it was as high as what you see over there, 6-7 feet high. Like I couldn't even really walk through it. I had to thrash it and slash it and cut the trees and continue to thrash, and then the pile got so big I could barely walk. The pile of stuff I had been cutting. I have to say, I have to praise God. I have to give God the credit that I have all the energy that I have. 6 years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic prostate cancer, August of 2018. They said I might have a year or two to live if I didn't have any treatment at all. Went to Dana-Farber, Boston, every 3 months for 5 years. Started out with 20 treatments of radiation. Was on androgen deprivation therapy for 2 years, from January 1st, 2019 to January 2021. They said with treatment, I could expect to live 5 years. Now I feel I'm on H2O2, 1 minute cure. I feel 20 years younger. I feel like I'm 48. All kinds of energy. Virtually no pain at all. I believe I'm being healed. I believe God has me here for a reason. He's got work for me to do. I know one thing, if I were to be sitting in the house all day, instead of doing this, I'd end up dying in my chair. Forget it. Turned my life over to the Lord May 16th, 1979. Am I perfect? No. I'm a sinner, saved by grace. Am I forgiven? Yes, when I confess. Always one more thing to cut. Come across this stump, log on the ground. Doing pretty good. Slowly gaining. You know, you just keep doing this for hours, and then when I see the results and I see what I've done so far, it gives me encouragement. It's like a virtuous cycle. This is what I do. I just keep clearing. See, now I notice all this cedar, small branches here. You see big stuff, you see small stuff, things that I cut 2 days ago. Logs that have fallen down 10 years ago, branches. You just keep going until there's, you know, occasionally move a rock. Fortunately, there's no rocks down here that I see. The backyard was full of them. When we put the foundation under the house in 1988, when I put the foundation under the house and jacked it up and had my friend Rick Knight Sr. do the excavation, there were so many rocks, it was unbelievable. More rocks than there was dirt. All river boulders, all round. Well, 90% of them. Kind of like granite round boulders. All different sizes. So there's where we came down. This is what I got cleared so far, and just what little length of time it's been. A few more cuts. Make it a little wider where those logs are. So if there's two people riding by here, they can go past each other. Go down around. There's the marker we were looking through when I was on the other side of those root plates. That's the marker. And here's the two root plates that I was standing on the other side of all those logs. So we go down there, go around to make a big circle for my 137-inch track machine. Come up through here. I'll go back and process this video and see how it looks. Hate to run this camera too long because the battery goes pretty quick. I cleared this the other day, but there's still some branches and things that need to be moved. Yeah. I think I might actually cut that left corner a little more. Get rid of that popple tree, I think that is. Go right, leave the logs basically there, but get rid of that brush. Add an extra 2 to 3 feet down through there to the left. More of a straightaway through here. And we'll head back up. Perfect example of a rock in the ground. Right here, covered with moss and pine needles or whatever. I might be able to pull that out. If I kick on it and it moves, it's got a root against it, so it might not move much. But I see it does move. I can probably pull that out with a good shovel. Yeah, I think I could pull that out.